Good morning, good day, good evening. Here I am. Let's play number 4. We continue with the Pachycephalosaurus. Hopefully, this time with sound. But I think even when the sound goes away, if I do a mouse click, the sound might return. Because last time when I ended my let's play, my recording, I had to click the mouse and it did have an effect on the audio. So let's see. This time I made myself some notes so that I don't run out of stuff to talk. And I might be motivated to talk about my spiritual awakening now. It all happened in the end of 2018. But prior to that, in summer, were the first signs of the awakening, but I wasn't aware back then. Yeah, I was for a while already sometimes taking a few puffs of the joint of a friend at the students' bar. I already was going to students' bars 10 years ago, and I'm still going there. I'm 31. I'm still looking very young. Sometimes people tell me I look like 21 or 23. It's definitely partly because of semen retention, but also because I don't stress myself with life as good as possible. I try to always have my idealistic view and still perceive life like a child. I never wanted to grow up to begin with. Some people are like, oh yeah, I want to grow up and be like an adult. What the fuck? Why would you do that? Isn't it obvious that life is stressful for adults? I just as a child already saw when my parents had some documents and they had to deal with something and do something. And I thought, why would anyone want to do that and go to work every day and come back at 4 in the afternoon? What is good about that? Obviously, it's not good. Yeah, so I always had a very playful take on life to begin with. And I did my bachelor's at the university. I studied economy. It was very difficult to do that. This is when life wasn't the same anymore, when I started to study, because I had to deal with so much stress. But I still was fighting and pushing through it, and I eventually got my bachelor's degree. And then came summer of 2018. Like I said, I was sometimes smoking joints that a friend had, just a bit, but I never got high. I always just did it for the style. It didn't give me any effect, surprisingly. It was the summer when I already started doing my master's, also at the university, also in economy, and it was very unrewarding because it was exactly like bachelor's, with the only difference that it was more material to learn. So, this is not very motivating. They just give you more stuff that you have to write, and then you have to do the exams and learn more and more and more. And how is this motivating? And what kind of weird system is this anyway? Where you just have to all the time learn stuff for the exam and then you forget it later anyway. How is this preparing you for the job life? The only thing that later is obvious is that you are able to achieve something. This is, in my opinion, the only real thing that the degree at the university brings you and shows to any HR person. I hate this. Yeah, so it's only a signal effect, nothing else. It's not that you really learn something, and this is very frustrating. The system is somehow cooked because basically they take the most smart people and they put them in universities. I mean, of course, everyone decides by themselves. You want to be at the university and study or not. But it feels like you should do that. Everyone tells you should do it. The parents are boomers and, Gen X. And they lived in a different time. And they think the degree helps you, so they push you to do it. They say, yeah, you should do it. And then when you suffer there and you're not able, they say, hey, look, other people are also able, then you should also be able. This is what my parents told me. And in my opinion, it's not very healthy way of thinking. And it was misleading, I think. If I would just have did a normal job where you learn for 3 years within the company and then you work there, I would have money already for 10 years. I would accumulate money. I would probably be able to buy a house. But I have nothing. I studied for like 10 years. I'm done now. I did a master's eventually. I had a job at a startup. It was a very bad job and they paid very low. I was studying for nothing, you know, they paid very low and the job sucked completely. I was working with bad, you know, they were having no clue themselves. I don't want to be now too rageful. I will not name the company, of course, but in general, okay, I try to not be too mean now. But I had the impression that many times they themselves did not know what was going on. So I was trying to do masters in economy, but I failed completely. I could not pass even one single exam or get any credit points for anything. So eventually I had to switch and I changed to another high school, but not exactly university. And there I did my master's in something related to economy, marketing science. And then later I worked as a digital marketing manager. Yeah, so they didn't pay a lot, and it's like it was marketing for the sake of marketing. Our chief marketing officer, it seemed he himself had no clue. He only got his position because he was friends in school with the CEO of the company. And the CEO, I liked the CEO. He was a cool guy. He always had a very sick humor, kind of sexist, I have to say, but you know, I don't take it too serious, you know. But yeah, he had a kind of sick humor. For example, we had designers in our marketing team, and then they designed the logo. Hey, can you stop? What the fuck is this shit? Fuck. So the designers designed a logo, and then he said, "Yeah, this is not the good colors that you use. These are the colors of desperate housewives that are unhappy." It was some purple. And the logo itself, he said it looks like an asshole. So this is the type of stuff that the CEO was talking on a regular basis. Many people didn't like him because he was naggy and kind of mean if he didn't like the work that someone did, you know. Talking like this to the designers, for example, it's not necessarily cool. He would say, yeah, maybe we need additional people if you're not able to do it. What else did he do? We had a Christmas party and he was all the time recommending drugs to people, saying what kind of drugs he took and that everyone in his life should take. I think he was talking about mushrooms or something. How for him it felt like time didn't exist anymore. I really liked the guy, to be honest. I never cared, you know? It's the boss, whatever. But so the chief marketing officer only got his position because he was friends with this guy in school. In reality, he himself studied before that history or something like this. So you see, the chief marketing officer tried to behave like he has a clue, but he had no clue. And he was all the time vaping. Even during the meetings, we had many times remote meetings where everyone sits at home, even though we had a base company as well, where we sometimes were seeing each other in real life. So he was vaping on and off. And from him, I also learned this bad behavior of vaping because it helped me deal with the stress at the work. When I was working remotely from home, I was also vaping. Yeah, and now I just continue vaping, but I do it less already than before. That's the good part, at least, yeah. But vaping is really, it's addictive, and then you cannot stop really, and it's bad for the lung. Then you always have moments where you're coughing. Yeah, but I'm getting better with it. You know, also when you do semen retention, yeah, then the urges transform and find new pathways into other addictions. So you rely more heavily maybe on stuff like vaping or drugs. And this is of course not healthy. Or that you buy too much stuff because it gives you some kick if you buy stuff. Stuff like this. I only started experiencing this so much when I started semen retention. It is a coping, it is not ideal, and it is just a temporary thing. I'm getting better with it. This is one of the pitfalls, the negative aspects of semen retention that not many people talk about, because they always only talk about the positive stuff and ignore the negative stuff. Look how I did him flawlessly after he defeated me over and over. Yeah, anyway, back then I was trying to do masters in economy at the university and it was not a good time. In summer I still didn't really care. I was just ignoring for the most part that it didn't go well. And then when it was autumn, around this time or very late summer, I started to get very vivid dreams. I knew my life is not going really somewhere, it's not going very well with studying. It was, of course, lingering in the background for me. So I got these vivid dreams. I was walking with my friends in a dream, for example, and on the landscape there was a very huge planet, and it looked very impressive. Already as a child, I had sometimes very vivid dreams. I remember one time as a child, I woke up in the dream, so I was not really awake, but I thought I'm awake because I was in my bed. I stood up and I looked out of the window onto our street, and there was also a planet hovering very low, like a huge yellowish moon, and I could see all the details of the moon. This was one of the most impressive dreams I ever had. I call it cosmic horror because it was so impressive. The moon was so detailed and so big and intense. It was really intimidating, even though it's basically a positive dream. It was just like filled with too much energy. As a child, I could oftentimes not sleep well. There was a time where it was like this. It seems I also had many nightmares, and this is when my grandpa started to heavily always do some prayer session with me before I go to sleep, good night prayers, stuff like this, that I have some spiritual protection. He always believed I need spiritual protection, and I got attacked during my dreams, and this is why I had so much negative dreams. And it seems I had some kind of power. He says I could see the aura of his hands when I was young. He would always show me his hands, and I could see aura around it. And I still remember this, but I remember that when I got a bit older, I started to mix it with my own fantasy, and it got all blurry. I did not know anymore, do I really see it or do I imagine it? And so my power dissipated and I couldn't see the aura anymore. And it seems my entire family lineage has spiritual powers. Because my grandpa, for example, he always has a problem with his heart. He has a weak heart and so on. And already long ago he got into hospital. And he says, it's probably like a dream or whatever, but he says one time he was in the hospital lying in his bed, and he saw a person enter the room. There were two beds, his bed and the bed of another person. And the person was a female covered in a white cloak. Yeah. So nothing was obvious, the face was not obvious. And when the person came in, the person was checking the bed and looking what was written in front of the bed about the patient who is lying in the bed. And then this person also came to the bed of my grandpa and looked. And my grandpa saw that it's just a skeleton inside of a coat in a white cloak. I hope this is the right word. So it's basically the female death, because in Russia, this is how the culture perceives death. When we think about the death, it's not a skeleton guy who is colored, who is in a black coat and has a weapon. No, it's a female skeleton. So he saw that. And then this skeleton person looked at his bed and went away, because it was not the time for my grandpa to die. This is the symbol he got out of it. There were other stories. He one time took a photo of something, and there was something weird on the photo, and because of that, he does not want to tell me what it was, but it must be something scary. And my grandpa then went to a psychic to get some protection from it, because it was a bad sign. And the psychic told him that my mother also has the ability to develop spiritual power, but she decided not to. But when she got pregnant with me, she had a dream and she saw two children, not just one, in her belly. She saw a boy and a girl. And now I have a daughter, and I always go with my daughter together to my parents, to my mother, and we stay there. And she thinks that back then what she saw is this, that she will eventually basically have a son and a daughter, only that it came later and it's basically her granddaughter. My father, who died recently in summer of, I think, 2024, because he went to the Ukraine war. He was fighting on the Russian side, no judgment, okay? And yeah, he also had his experiences. He says he once saw a UFO. I mean, whatever, I don't know. Sounds a bit crazy to me. He says he was waving to a UFO and telling everyone about it. But also he did one of those games that you should not do, where you on purpose try to evoke some entities. And so he had 2 candles lit up, one to the left and one to the right of him. And in front of him was a mirror, and it was dark. Behind him was also a mirror. So the mirrors were creating a tunnel vision for him, where there are many, many candles, and it's an ongoing, endless tunnel. And then, when he was looking into the mirror, suddenly his own picture went away, his own mirror image, and instead a witch appeared, a hag, an ugly old hag with a nose that is going upwards instead of downwards. So yeah, we all have our fair share of experiences, and I had my own one as a child. I don't remember it myself, but I got told about it from my grandpa, that I was one time at an aunt of us, together with my other relatives, and I saw the picture of a relative, some man, and it was a normal photo, but I saw the photo and I started crying, and I told my family to please pray for this person. And later what happened is, this person did suicide and killed himself. So yeah, obviously some psychic power was going on, but it was all dormant afterwards. But in 2018 it all started. So it got very bad with my studying. In the end of 2018, I realized I'm not going to pass any exams again for the second half year semester. And I got very frustrated because I had no clue how my life is supposed to go on. I thought if I cannot do that, I will not find a job, even though I had a bachelor's degree and I was probably too negative. But I was completely not prepared to live an adult life, and I did not know what will happen. And I think my life is over because it's not enjoyable anymore when student life is over and you just have a 9-to-5 job. You cannot go to the students' bars. This was what I was thinking, that life will be super lame. And I think this is part of why I got my spiritual awakening, because I felt like I'm pushed into a corner and there's no way out anymore. And so the way out was to open myself up in a spiritual way to new stuff, I think. I should really kill this Stuggy Moloch finally. So yeah, when winter came, I again was just doing the weed, and it suddenly gave me a strong effect unlike before. I remember the first time I was also at the bar, I got a pull from the weed, and when I went back up to my place, to my room in the students' dormitory, I just had very strong effects. I saw stuff in my room. I know it's a hallucination and it was not a positive one, but this just never happened to me before, and I thought it's fascinating. But I still didn't think much of it. I wasn't too intimidated. It was still manageable easily, so I was still not having a problem with trying weed again. And the next time was so crazy. Back then, I was single at the current moment, and there was a girl. I will talk about her in a moment. Not that she is important anymore, but back then it was just part of the story. Anyway, I was at the lecture. I was heading to a lecture, yeah? And before that I also met this other friend again who has the weed. And he always was smoking non-stop. So he had his joint at the university, and I just took one pull of it or something. I thought nothing will happen. And then I went to the lecture and I was completely high, like never before. This never happened before. And I was trying to behave like I'm normal, but it was very difficult. I was trying to write down what the professor woman was writing in front, and I really couldn't. Sometimes when I looked later at my paper, the notes that I was making, they didn't make any sense because, I was completely high. I just mentioned this girl because back then I also got a strong visual, like she is my twin flame. But I don't think she is my twin flame nowadays. The twin flame is a pitfall concept. I don't strongly believe in it, or if I believe in it, then it's much more complicated than that. Twin flame is supposed to be the other half of your soul, a twin soul in another body. Like basically you are incarnated in two different lives at the same time. a man and a woman, and they eventually find each other in their final incarnation on Earth, and they fall in love, but it's not easy because they trigger all their deep wounds and stuff. But back then I saw a strong visual, me and this girl together. Nowadays I know when you're high, any emotion you have gets amplified and you see visuals of it, so I understand it has nothing to mean. But back then it was super impressive. So I would just call her my catalyst twin flame, nothing else. Just a catalyst for my spiritual awakening. Anyway, this was going on. I was having something with this girl, but not much was happening because she later got back with her boyfriend. She still had feelings for him. And yeah, this is something you have to learn. Even when you're on no-fab semen retention, you cannot get any girl. If she's still having love for another guy, for example, you cannot do anything about it. Even though you are having very high charisma, there's still limits to everything. I just wanted to mention this because it was shortly afterwards that I found out about semen retention. Already it was over with that girl that I considered back then my twin flame, and there was another girl appearing who I also had a strong connection with, but it didn't work out smoothly. And eventually I couldn't continue with her, and I got so frustrated because I already got 2 negative experiences with girls where I was trying to make something happen and ultimately it didn't work. And I was so sad. It was already December, and so I was like, God, please help me. I don't like that I always feel like girls are above me, and I tried my best and still in the end, it doesn't work out with the girls that I truly want and stuff like this. I was praying to God, and God really helped me. Because it was directly after I prayed to Him that I was on the internet and I found some website of a guy, some dating guy, pickup artist, and he was talking about NoFap, and I never heard about NoFap before. And this is how I started. The moment I read about it, I directly started to do the NoFap. And I did it very successfully because I had strong belief and nothing was holding me back. Back then I did not know about the flatline, so I was 100% motivated. I thought, why on earth should I continue watching porn or doing anything by myself if just the easy act of staying away from this gives me all the power in the world? I gave it a try and it really worked for me. I got on a very, very elevated state back then. I got all the attraction. People were looking at me in a very great way. Like I'm God, like they saw God Himself. They would look at me and they would just nod in respect, like they saw part of themselves mirrored in me. This was a crazy experience. I remember I again got to the bar before I got on the semen retention, and I again pulled from the joint of that friend, and I got more high than ever before. I would just sit there on the couch, and a friend of mine was supporting me, and I was just completely in my own thoughts, basically tripping. When I do weed, I'm tripping on weed. So I was sitting there, and the secrets of the universe were revealed to me. I told her there's more to life, it continues. She was crying when I told her about that. Because just recently in summer, a friend of us died due to cancer. He was 30 years old back then. And when I told her there's more to life and so on, I literally had her cry because of it. Because I was talking from such a pure state, she couldn't deny there's truth to it. Yeah, but eventually this high got over and I got more highs. And then it was shortly before Christmas, and that guy came again who always has the joints, but he had an empty Pringles cup. You know those packages where the Pringles are inside? And he was making a bong out of this Pringles cup. And I had a few sips, and another guy that I know from the bar had also a few sips. And then the main dealer joint guy was like, they are gone in a moment. I was like, what the fuck? He thinks that in 1 minute or so we're completely stoned. Oh my god. And then it really happened. I got incredibly stoned. I went back to the bar downstairs. There's an area where we were gathering while other people were playing, I think, beer pong and so on. And I was talking to my friends. And at some point they were telling me, hey, this is not what we said, you responded to the wrong thing. And this is when I realized I was so high that I was hallucinating what they say because I wasn't listening properly anymore. I was too much in my thoughts. And this is when I knew I have to go away quickly before something embarrassing happens. And I remember before this happened, I already was sitting downstairs and I was looking around. And the only person that caught my attention and we had eye contact was exactly the other guy who also got super high, just like me, from the bong. Yeah, we had eye contact. I realized he's also in an altered state of consciousness. He was smiling so funnily because he was so high. Yeah, but when I realized that I'm messing up reality, I needed to disappear quickly and I told him to please come with me, those friends. But they got distracted because someone else came and was talking to them. It pissed me off a bit because they didn't understand how serious it was for me. So I went away by myself and I went up the stairs to my room. And I was so high that the whole walls were vibrating of energy. I could see everything so full of energy. Everything was vibrating. It was amazing but intimidating and scary because I know this is not a good trip anymore. I went to my home, I locked myself, and I lied on the bed. And then when it got really bad, because my heart started to beat very, very quickly, and it was like a torture. I was all the time breathing heavily, very quickly. It was like like a panic attack, I would say. So I was just trying to lie there until it's over, basically. And I remember I was completely hallucinating. I saw, like from a eagle's or bird's eye view, a landscape of mountains that I was passing through. It's like the universe was telling me there's so much more, there's a vastness and you're part of it, and don't worry so much about your studying, there's so much more to life. Suddenly it felt like the secrets were revealed to me and like life is supposed to be an ecstatic adventure. I saw multiple different visuals. So yeah, I mean, it was too intense and stressful, but by idea it was still a positive message and everything. And only then my friends came back, and this is when I was calming down already, and they helped me to calm down. So this was the moment that something in me got activated, let's say. And after that it really started. After that I found out about NoFap, and I was doing it, and because I got already psychically opened up due to the weed, the NoFap had a very strong effect on me. And then I got basically high on NoFap without doing weed anymore, because there were still remnants of the weed that I used before, and through NoFap they were activated. So my confidence got high. I went to the bars, and girls were seeking to be close to me because I made them feel safe or something, you know. They would jump into my direction or something like this, for example, yeah? So it was a very nice feeling. And I remember I went to the Mensa, the place where you eat at the university, and I got randomly activated while I was at the Mensa. Suddenly I felt my throat chakra, and maybe something else as well, but especially my throat chakra. And I saw that everything is made out of love. I just saw all of those students, all of those people, and I saw them like family, you know? Just random students. I got tears into my eyes. Everything felt amazing. I just saw a machine where you can buy the cola cans, and even seeing the machine gave me such a good feeling, because whatever you see that it's made out of love. Then I went to the place where you get the food, and the smell of the warm food, and that people prepared for us, and that they serve us in such a good way, in a nurturing way. It all made me so happy. I was so positive. I was in complete bliss. I guess this was samadhi already at this point. But it doesn't stay like this. I had this high moment, and then I got again a bit more grounded, but it was going on and off for 3 weeks that I got on this very high moments, over and over. But I didn't tell my parents about it. I just was pretending that everything is normal because why should I tell too much about it? But my pupils got wider because of it. Like I am high even though I was not high. But it felt very amazing. Children were giggling when I'm around, but not in a negative way, in a very positive way. I would just sit at the place, at the supermarket. Some woman would go by, we would have eye contact. And I saw I could take her right now if I want to. If I could go up to her and talk to her and she would give me her number or whatever. Stuff like this. Yeah, let's see. Yeah, also at one point I was taking a train back to my city because I was visiting my parents. And there was some girl and I asked her for the direction or something. I don't know what it was about. And then I was like, hey, can I sit next to you? She was like, yeah. Then I was all the train ride talking to this stranger girl that I just met. And she was very attracted to me. And at the end, when she had to leave, she was looking at me because she wanted me to ask her for her number. It was obvious. But I always, in that time, was thinking, why should I be the one that asks for the number? If you want something from me, you should ask. So I was just looking at her and didn't say anything until she left. Yeah, but I could have easily done it. But I mean, it doesn't matter. I'm just telling you so that you understand my experience and that it was very real, that's all. Yeah, so this went on for 3 weeks. I remember I would go to the train station, people would go in my direction, and they would like a magnet be pulled towards me because my energy was so high and so positive. They would be like pulled towards me, and it was just weird, you know? They would not walk like they normally would walk. And then sometimes everything got too intense. I was in the train already, and there were some Arabs behind me sitting, a group of Arabs, and they were super loud in the train. And normally I wouldn't care, but I got really bothered by it. Shit, did I already do that? I completely am in my thoughts, so I don't even know which animal I did. I think I did it, right? So we do this one. Yeah. So I got hypersensitive is what I'm trying to say. And then when I left the train, suddenly I got a different time perception. Everyone was moving slower than they are supposed to move. It means my brain was processing at such a quick rate that time slowed down for me and I could react quicker to everything. I also know the opposite. When you get drunk, everything moves quicker than normally because your brain processes slower, which is not necessarily bad because it also helps you to calm down and not overthink. But yeah, there I got the opposite. Everything was slowed down for a moment. This was also interesting. I guess these are parts of the main experience. The respect was just amazing that I got. But even then, this one girl, who I thought was my twin flame, she still did not want to be with me because she still loved the other guy. So keep that in mind. No matter how high your energy is, you cannot force someone to like you over another guy if the person is already in a relationship or has just affection for someone else. And that's totally fine. There's no need to be able to control people completely and make them do anything. You know, there's still limits. Only because you're in high energy, it doesn't mean you can completely get power over the entire world and everything will work only the way you want. And that's fine. There's no need for that. But yeah, so I had my 3 weeks and it was very positive all the time. Many times, just the world, I was seeing it in a different way. It didn't look like it's used to look. It was very high energetical. Everything was super vibrant. Sometimes I was, for example, one time in the car with my grandma and I just looked out of the front window and it looked like the whole world is not massive anymore, not stable anymore. It looked so shaking, so floaty, like it's just pure energy. It's hard to explain that. It's a bit like it started to move like a waveform, you know, instead of being stable. Maybe this is how it really is, but you cannot perceive it normally. And I was looking at the car at some later point, because later, when I got normal again, I sometimes still get glimpses of this samadhi or very high different perception. And for example, the car is such a weird thing. A car is just a metal cabin where people are sitting inside, and it has wheels, and underneath you have the numbers plate, and it just looks so weird when you look at it with the eyes of an alien who never saw a car in his life. Houses look weird because it's a weird concept that we have those huge blocks with windows and doors where people live inside. For the normal mind, it's very familiar, but if you see it from a perspective like you see it for the first time and you have no clue what this is, it's crazy. You still understand this is a house, this is a car, but you see it on a conceptual layer. You see it like you see it for the first time, and you see everything as concepts. And this is part of the mechanics of a higher way of perceiving everything, to see it through the spiritual lens. But it's difficult to explain these things. Anyway, when it was already the end of my 3-week streak, I also met who later was becoming my new girlfriend. And it so happened that she was also a lot into spirituality, and she later ended up smoking weed all the time. 3 joints at least every day, normally 5 joints. If it was just 3 joints, she was already proud of herself that she could only do 3 joints. But it's just interesting that I pulled in a girl randomly who also was into spirituality. So she really liked what I had to say. But when the 3 weeks reached their end, I got more into a negative state of mind. I was starting to think something is weird. Why is this all happening? What comes next? Am I on some mission and I don't know what's going on? Are there people in the background? Because I was also starting to read on the internet about stuff. Like, who knows, maybe I get contacted and so on. But it got a bit more worrying, not so positive anymore. When I was lying down, I could see in my visual field some entities, just hallucinations, and they would talk to me, and I realized this is not completely healthy anymore. So yeah, I started to get a bit stressed and worried, and this is when this high energy started to dissipate. Yeah, I mean, I never got on such a disciplined streak. Back then, I was repressing most of my urges to the degree that I only had very, very abstract sexual thoughts, very abstract visuals, and I was suppressing them as good as possible. I was saying the only place where sexuality is allowed is when I have actually sex with a girl, and not other than that. And it worked very good. But when I got a little bit the more paranoid type of feelings, then my body started to sometimes feel cold and shaky. And so yeah, my body started shaking in a cathartic way. Catharsis, is this a word? I don't know. But I mean, yeah, the energy, my body couldn't hold it anymore, so my body was shaking and the energy got away actually at some point. And I realized, okay, somehow I'm still on my streak after the 3 weeks, but I don't have any benefits anymore. People treat me again like normally, so it didn't work anymore. And this is when I relapsed for the first time. And I'm not going to lie, it was with corn, and I never felt so much excitement from corn like this time. It was the greatest corn session I ever had. Yeah, but it's the first and only time that it got to this degree great, and it's not like I'm recommending doing it, but yeah, it's all part of the journey. And even after that relapse, so I had 1 week, actually I was still on the streak. My streak was 4 weeks, but the last week I just had no positive effect from it. This is when I relapsed, and shortly afterwards I again got small glimpses of the same positive energy, but it wasn't the same anymore. But they got activated because I relapsed once. But after that, it was done. I was back to normal, like nothing ever happened. So this was just an initiation. And from then on, to achieve it again, I would have to put in hard work. I cannot just do semen retention and get the same effects anymore. There's much more. You have to understand your own psyche. You have to dig into your own shadow, and you have to retrieve aspects of yourself and really heal on a deep layer. Semen retention cannot do it for you. It can just support you. But you need to reflect on your own behavior, on your own character, and do the work by yourself. And relapses are kind of necessary on the journey because you're not learning anything when you stay in high energy. You need sometimes to relapse, to fall down on your face, to get the negative effect again from society or whatever. I give you a good example. I was in the summer on a no-fap streak, and I got very rigid. My discipline was high, but you know, my energy, when you're completely all the time doing semen retention, your energy gets very stiff. You get less emotional, but it doesn't mean the emotions are gone. Because life is still difficult, you still experience the emotions, but you can just not process them. You cannot reach them. They're somehow repressed in your body, and it doesn't feel great over time. You get very tense, very stiff. And yeah, people respect you, but only because people respect you, it does not necessarily mean that you can connect to people and relate to them and have good talks with them. I had experiences where people highly respect me, watch me, pay attention to me, but I still go to the bar and I'm mostly by myself because I was not looking at the people and they thought I'm fine and I don't need anyone. Like they have too much respect to just randomly walk up to me, stuff like this. And then I had to relapse because a lot of stuff happened. I was dating at that time. And sometimes it got very exhausting because I felt betrayed by the mixed signals that some girls gave me. And then when I relapsed, I felt better afterwards because I could finally process all the emotions that got stuck in my body. And there's another thing. After my spiritual awakening, first there was a time when not much was going on. I was with my girlfriend who was all the time doing weed, and I smoked with her. And I traveled a lot to the spiritual weed plane, and I got a lot of revelations, and I understood better what weed is and how it just amplifies any emotion that you have and gives you visuals that are based on that. But I saw complete different worlds just in my imagination, and sometimes they were so intense that it was scary. But I still always went there because I'm like a real junkie. I like the adrenaline, I guess. I like the experiences, even when they're not always positive. Many times I was high, I got positive and negative experiences mixed. One moment it's positive, then the next is negative, and so on. And you can also perceive the world visually through a negative perspective that is very scary. It works both ways. You can see it very positive and very negative. And I saw all of it. I saw the good, the bad, and the ugly. But after I always got high with this girlfriend, eventually I tried to do NoFap again when the year was over. And first I again got all the positive effects. But yeah, I was also doing weed during that time. And at some point it wasn't positive anymore because I had the relapse in between or something. But then when I tried to go back on NoFap, somehow the energy was off. Because there was not a reset after the relapse, you know. Somehow it was still in a negative way, and then because of the additional weed and everything, I got into a very low psychotic state, basically, where I would get hallucinations that would scare me and they wouldn't go away, and it was hard to stop doing weed because it's kind of addictive. So I got very, very low, and this is when the lockdown came as well. The whole Corona stuff came on top of that, and also I broke up with my girlfriend. Or let's say we broke up with each other. So I got the lockdown, and during the lockdown I also was single, and so I had no one to talk to, basically, not even my parents, because I lived somewhere else and I couldn't see them. And I was all the time processing that my body was off because of all the weed that I did in the past. So my body was basically integrating all of the weed and everything, because it changes you. I remember when I was still with my girlfriend, I smoked weed so much that at some point I got headaches. Terrible headaches, and they wouldn't go away in my entire brain area. And this is, I think, when my crown and third eye chakras got activated. But yeah, it was very bad. Luckily, it went away by itself again. And I remember it was also at that time when I got very scared of dying because my body would feel like it's not physical anymore. And I had the impression I can fall through the wall, you know, or through the bed, and then my body is harmed because it has no integrity. I mean, yeah, it sounds completely crazy because it is crazy, but when you are high, this is how it happens. And when you're still psychotic because your body didn't process all the weed, then this also is what happens. So yeah, I don't even argue with you. To some degree, I think I was crazy, but it got better. I mean, it not got only better, it got away. I can handle it, I'm grounded, and I can handle anything right now. But during my Dark Night of the Soul in 2020, it was very bad. I was fighting through a lot of bad stuff because my chemicals in my body were completely off. I also was taking L-arginine pills back then already, but I was taking too many of them. I didn't realize that they also have a bad effect when not taken in moderation. So this made it even worse. I would have dreams that were too intense, where two huge dinosaurs, for example, were fighting with each other because they are just metaphors and aspects of myself. And it was too exhausting. I was back then praying to God to help me that it gets better. And then randomly, my phone called a girl that I know, just randomly happened, and who is very into religion and Christian. She's a Christian girl. And she was like, hey, maybe you didn't call for no reason. Maybe it was all on purpose. And I was like, yeah, maybe you're right. I think you can help me. I'm not in a good mind. But then it was just enough to talk with her. This already helped me. I did not need to go further, and already this shifted something in me and gave me a more positive outlook. And back then I also had very terrible nightmares where it felt like astral entities from the fourth dimension were attacking me, because I never had this type of nightmares before. I call them haunted dreams, where it feels like an entity is coming into your dream, some demon, to on purpose harass you and suck your energy off of you, because you get very scared, and those astral entities, they feed from this. And I later realized that at this time I was always meditating, also in 2021 I guess, putting my hands on my heart chakra because it gave me a good feeling. I was doing this while lying on my spine, on my back, and I later realized that I should stop that I was basically opening a portal in my heart chakra, and when I was sleeping those negative entities went into my heart chakra and started messing with me. There was a dream, for example, if I tell the dreams now, it doesn't sound, it's hard to talk about them in a way that it's understandable, so I will not do that in detail, but I will just say one example. If I talk about it, it doesn't sound so terrible, but you just have to understand the feelings that I had were very bad, and like completely there's some other entity messing with you. I never had that before, and I don't wish anyone to have this because it's completely terrible. In one dream, I was at my parents' place, and I put something in my room, and then I went into the other room, and then I wanted to take the object that I put, and I went back to my place, and I saw the object is not there anymore. And I understood this is not supposed to be like this. It's like there was the demonic entity, and it was trying to mess with me, and on purpose removed the object. And it was very scary, because I did not understand it's just a dream. And I was trying to explain to my parents that the object is gone. And I had a breakdown in the dream where I started crying in complete despair, because it's not supposed to happen. I hope I can explain well what kind of horror I was feeling. And this happened multiple times. And the last time I ever got a haunted dream, I already got more experience of how to deal with astral entities. I was opening my eyes and I saw a darkness directly in front of my visual field. Basically, when you wake up, sometimes you can see more energy. And so everything looks more vibrant, but exactly in the middle of my visual field, there was a darkness. So I thought this is the entity. It's sitting right in front of me and taking my energy that it got from the nightmare. So I was sending love towards this entity and saying, I release you into the light. And then it went away. And it felt good, and it's part of the processing. I processed it in my own psyche, and then this never happened again, because I also know what I should not do to prevent it from happening. Like I said, I shouldn't put my hands on my heart chakra, because otherwise I open a portal. I still put my hands on my heart chakra when I meditate, for example, but not when I'm about to go sleep, because I know this is bad. But when I meditate, it's great because it activates your heart chakra. You get a warm feeling in your heart. I like meditating mostly not to binaural beats, even though I did this as well. But mostly I meditate to YouTube music. I like trance music where they don't talk, nightcore, stuff like this. And then I slow it down to 25%. You know that it's very slow, because then when I listen to it, it puts me into another state of consciousness. I close my eyes, I put something in front of my eyes so I cannot see anything. I put my hands on my heart and I sink very deep into my meditative state. In general, music is a very helpful tool. Many times when I felt bad, God sent me the right music at the right time. Exactly the music that helps transform something in my feelings, in my consciousness, release that I can cry or whatever, or it just gives me some understanding of how to deal with the situation at hand. So music is very great for that. And I would, in many cases, not just randomly find the right song on YouTube. I would also just in my mind hear some music. It would come to my mind that I already know, some music that exactly fits for the current moment. And this is a great tool that helped me to process a lot of hardships that I had to go through. Yeah, but eventually the dark night of the soul went away, and I got more and more better and better in handling my energy and getting onto higher and higher states of consciousness. Back then I could also nearly don't talk to people because I know I was looking a bit weird. My eyes, I couldn't look at people the way I did before because I felt like I was staring into nothingness. I saw too much during my trips and I couldn't laugh anymore. I couldn't smile anymore because I saw so much horror and terrifying stuff. I remember one time I thought I will just be teleported into a negative reality where I will be tortured. And I couldn't get off this feeling until I fully relaxed and accepted it. So I had to accept the horror and that I will be immersed in the horror, and only then did it let go of me. I had multiple times the feeling I will be tortured, like something will happen to my physical body, especially when I was taking showers, and I was praying to God for help. And this is the only thing that gave me strength. If you're in a very low state, praying to God really helps. It is the ultimate power because you connect to something that is bigger than you. Even if it's just a concept, it is a concept that is above you. You can channel it, but it's too huge to be part of you. You can always only channel it as additional help. It is the ultimate power. So yeah, I have a good connection to God and God helped me when necessary. And still I can pray to God and I get help. Like I said, I only found out about semen retention because I was praying to God to begin with. Yeah, so I got later better with my energy, but the mother of my daughter decided to sue me for some bullshit. So I got very, very worried and I did not want to do anything other than retaining because I was completely not in the mood to do anything anymore. Because normally I still oftentimes would edge from time to time, especially because I always have girlfriends and my drive is high. But back then, 2 years ago, because I got a letter from police, I was so stressed and worried, and I know I need to harness my nofap energy optimally. And so I went on a 3-month streak. I also had all the success, even though I was having sex. So having sex is not a real relapse. So I had the motivation to go on a 3-month streak, and I only stopped because I hit the flat line after reaching the 3 months. But you get better and better in harnessing your energy and keeping it in your body for longer and longer. And you learn from every new mistakes. I'm also using sigils to create my reality in the way that I want. It means I write down some statement that I want to be true. Let's be good, that I am good with girls. Girls are attracted to me. For example, this is what I did in the past. I would write down the statement. Then I would cut out every repeating letter and all the vowels. Then I would take the letters that are still left and combine them into a symbol and try to make it very, very simple. And then I would just put it somewhere where I can see it all the time and I forget what the sigil is about, this symbol, but I see it over and over, and it works on the subconscious level and makes the statement come true. So I did this in the past, now I have other sigils, I'm trying to manifest the perfect job, trying to manifest more money, and trying to have more discipline, and doing less of the edging, and it works. I think because I started with these sigils, I had one final relapse, and it led to me getting hacked, because this is how God pushes me to stay on track and be able to fulfill the statement of the sigil, to be in greater discipline. But one thing I have to say, when you're already edging, you're kind of lowering your energy. Actually, your attraction can get more if you edge, because your drive gets higher. But at the same time, you are less confident, even though the people still pay attention to you, sometimes more, because you are having a higher drive and more trying to connect to other people in the sexual way. Automatically, it's subconscious, because your drive is higher. So edging makes your drive higher. Sex also makes your drive higher, but in a good way. But edging makes your drive higher, but at the same time it's kind of toxic. So yeah, even when you watch porn and you don't really relapse, you still get a high attraction from girls, for example. You still do get that. At the same time though, you don't want to look into the eyes of the people anymore, because you feel shame subconsciously. And what I realized is that if you already make your energy dirty because you watched some content or you edged too much, then it gets more difficult not to relapse. And it's sometimes the wise decision just to finally relapse already. But best you do it without corn, without anything. Then people will not pay attention to you anymore, but you have clean energy. And when you have clean energy and you didn't already feed all the time your subconscious with images or edging, then it's much easier to retain again and be completely pure. Because if you already edged or watched corn, even though you continue retaining, your energy is not pure anymore. So sometimes it's good to have a full reset where you just relapse, release, because afterwards you can continue in a much easier way and you get to a much higher state where it's effortless, where you really don't pay attention to anyone anymore because you're completely contained. And this is what happened to me, and now I am regaining my power. And I think this time I will get on a high streak because I feel I can do it this time. Yeah, but normally it takes up to like 9 days before you start to feel like you're above other humans again, like you get the high respect. Before that, you just get treated like some random person. After a few days, of course, when you just relapse, you have a little low where you feel very invisible. But around the 9-day mark is where you start to get some positive results again. And then 2 weeks in, it gets very good. So yeah, I was talking now really much, and I think it's very good what I was saying, very good productive content. Let's see how much I have dinosaurs left. One more thing, I don't perceive life normal anymore. I perceive it as a lucid dream. I know it's not a lucid dream, but it feels like a lucid dream. Stuff comes up in my reality according to my own thought pattern, so it's all related, just like in a lucid dream. And this mindset helps me manifest. This is something very powerful you can keep in mind. Also, I did have a lucid dream once, and I could manifest something in real life and change how real life is due to the lucid dream and what I did in the lucid dream. So when you are able to have lucid dreams, you can manifest in real life based on what you dream about. Okay. Next time we do the Albertosaurus, and then we will do survival mode. But I think we start survival mode in easy mode because I need more training. Then I do survival mode in the medium heaviness, and then maybe I do in the very heavy hard mode. But I think survival hard mode, I won't be managed to do it successfully, especially not if I keep talking while playing. But it doesn't matter, we just start with the easy mode. So, like, comment, subscribe, see you in the next video. Bye.